What does a flashing red light at an intersection mean? When driving on a wet road, you should. A round yellow sign with a black X means. If an emergency vehicle is approaching with flashing lights and sirens, you must. What does a green arrow at a traffic light mean? When two vehicles arrive at an intersection at the same time, who has the right of way? What is the main cause of hydroplaning? What is the 2-second rule? When you see a sign with an orange background, it means. If you park facing downhill, you should turn your front wheels. What does a broken yellow line between lanes mean? What is the first thing you should do in case of a brake failure? When merging onto a freeway, you should. When must you yield to pedestrians? The maximum speed limit on most rural interstate highways is. A pentagon-shaped sign usually indicates. When backing up, you should. When driving in heavy rain, you should use. What should you do if you approach a stop sign but no line or crosswalk is present? If you see a merge sign, you should. What does a flashing yellow traffic light mean? When parallel parking on a two-way street, your right-hand wheels must be. What should you do if your brakes fail while driving? A red arrow at a traffic light means. The maximum blood alcohol concentration, BAC, allowed for drivers 21 plus in most states is. If you see an emergency vehicle with flashing lights behind you, what should you do? What does a pentagon-shaped road sign indicate? Hydroplaning occurs when. What is the correct hand signal for a left turn? If under 21 and caught driving with any measurable BAC, you may face when should you use your headlights? A solid double yellow line on the road means before changing lanes, you should penalty for failing to stop for a school bus with flashing red lights. A triangular orange sign on a vehicle means when approaching a railroad crossing without signals, you should the best way to fight driver fatigue is at a four-way stop, if two vehicles arrive at the same time, who goes first? When driving in fog, you should use if your vehicle starts to skid, what should you do? A flashing red traffic light means when driving in heavy rain, you should when is it legal to turn right on a red light? What does a yellow diamond-shaped sign generally indicate? What is the 2-second rule used for? What should you do if you miss your exit on the freeway? A broken yellow line on your side of the road means when parking uphill with a curb, your wheels should be turned. The main purpose of traffic laws is to if your turn signals fail, you should when approaching a stop sign, you must what is the speed limit in most residential areas, unless otherwise posted? What does a circular sign with a black X and two R's mean? What is the first thing you should do in the event of a tire blowout? What does a solid white line on the right edge of the road signify? What should you do if you approach a traffic signal that is not working? When driving behind a motorcycle, you should when driving through a work zone, you should When is it legal to park in front of a fire hydrant? If your vehicle starts to skid, what should you do? Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. When should you turn on your headlights?
If you see a pedestrian crossing the street at an unmarked crosswalk, you must. What should you do before changing lanes? When driving through fog, you should use. The main purpose of a seatbelt is to. You approach an intersection with flashing yellow lights. What should you do? When must you stop for a school bus? You're driving on a highway and your exit is suddenly blocked. What should you do? If you begin to skid on a slippery road, you should. What is the safest way to handle a curve? If your car starts to hydroplane, you should. When parking uphill without a curb, turn your wheels. What should you do when an emergency vehicle is approaching with sirens on? What's the hand signal for slowing down or stopping? When must you use your turn signal? What does a diamond-shaped road sign indicate? If your brake pedal suddenly sinks to the floor, you should. What should you do when merging onto a highway? What's the purpose of a broken yellow line? When driving at night, you should dim your high beams when.
When approaching a railroad crossing without gates or lights, you should. A broken white line on the road means. What should you do if your vehicle starts to skid? You must yield the right-of-way to emergency vehicles. When parking downhill with a curb, turn your wheels. When you see a stop sign, you must. When driving in heavy rain, You should. When approaching an intersection with no signs or lights, who goes first? The main reason for wearing a seatbelt is when driving in fog, you should. What does a red arrow on a traffic light mean? Before making a lane change, you should. When driving near a bicyclist, you should. You must turn your headlights on. What should you do if your accelerator sticks? You are approaching a pedestrian with a white cane. You must. What's the best way to avoid fatigue on long trips? When entering a roundabout, you should. A flashing red traffic light means when must you report an accident to the police? When driving in a school zone, you should. A solid double yellow line in the center of the road means when should you use your horn? If a traffic light turns yellow while you're approaching an intersection, you should. When approaching a stopped school bus with flashing red lights, you must. If you miss your exit on the freeway, you should. If you miss your exit on the freeway, you should. A flashing yellow light means you are required to use your turn signals. You are required to use your turn signals. What does a red and white triangular sign mean? When approaching an intersection with a green light, you should. If you have a tire blowout while driving, you should. You must dim your high beam headlights when When following a motorcycle, you should. What should you do if you see a roadwork ahead sign? When approaching a blind pedestrian with a guide dog, you must. What should you do if your engine stalls while driving? A steady green arrow means. If your vehicle begins to hydroplane, you should. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe.